Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I know I just recently uploaded a video on my books to read for this spooky season. I do that every single year, but I realized I've never done books I want to read myself during spooky season. I always talk about books I have already read. So I thought it'd be really fun this year to talk about the books that I have in my personal TBR for September and October. I know it's October now, and I'm in the middle of reading these right now, so hopefully by the time this video goes up, it's already been read. Yeah, I have a little stack of books that I'm hoping I can get through during spooky season. I will be traveling for most of October on my honeymoon, so I really don't know how much I'm actually going to be able to read, which is a bummer because I just love spooky season and I love spooky books, but I'm hoping that I can get through at least 3 of these. I'm going to give myself... Yeah, hopefully 3 of these. I think I could hopefully manage 3 of these this year, but I'm hoping to get through as many as possible. But again, I'm bad with reading when I'm traveling, so I don't always know if I will. But without further ado, this is my spooky season TBR. So first up is The September House by Carissa Orlando. This is a book that I saw repeatedly spoken about on Instagram and was like, what is this? It says September House. It's about a haunted house in fall. Sign me up. So I'm going to read the inside flap for y'all. A woman is determined to stay in her dream home even after it becomes a haunted nightmare in this compulsively readable, twisty, and layered debut novel. When Margaret and her husband Hal bought the large Victorian house on Hawthorne Street for sale at a surprisingly reasonable price, they couldn't believe they finally had a home of their own. Then they discovered the hauntings. Every September, the walls drip blood. The ghosts of former inhabitants appear, and all of them are terrified of something that lurks in the basement. Most people would flee. Margaret is not most people. After 4 years, Margaret has learned how to live with the house. It's her house, after all. But Hal can't take it anymore, and he leaves abruptly. Now he's not returning calls, and their daughter Catherine, who knows nothing about the hauntings, arrives, intent on looking for her missing father. To make things worse, September has just begun, and with every attempt Margaret and Catherine make to find Hal, the hauntings grow more harrowing. Because there are some secrets the house needs to keep. Ooh, so far, I'm about halfway through this book right now. You can see I've got my, napkin bookmark. I'm really, really enjoying this. It's definitely very different than I thought it was going to be by just reading the inside flap. There's a lot of layers. It's very fun. It's very funny. It kind of reminds me of T. Kingfisher's writing style. Margaret is a very interesting character. She speaks very colloquially. And it's been really fun so far. So hopefully I'll have that wrapped up in the next few days. But that is definitely a shining standout for my spooky reads because I know I'm going to get through it. And then this I actually bought for my honeymoon for when I'm traveling. And I normally wouldn't do this, but this is an anthology. I was just up in Toronto, and I went to this bookshop called Little Ghost Books. I'll post some photos up of it because it was freaking adorable. And it's a horror bookshop, and I believe coffee shop. But it was super cute, and I saw this. It was on a shelf displayed, and I was like, you know what? I want something very spooky that I don't have to feel committed to when I'm on my honeymoon because I know it's going to be really hard for me to read and stay engaged in a story. And last time I went on a 2-week trip through Europe, I bought a collection of stories, or it was more like essays, and I was able to actually read the entire thing. It's just every day I would just read one, and it made it way more manageable. But this is October Screams, a Halloween anthology edited by Kenneth W. Kane. And it features all new horror by Brian Keene and Richard Chismar, Gemma Amore, Keelan Patrick Burt, Clay McLeod Chapman, Philip Fracassi, Todd Kiesling, Ronald Melfi, and more. I'm not going to read all the names on the list, but I'm going to read the back for y'all. Immerse yourself in a world of Halloween horrors with this bone-chilling anthology of tricks and treats from some of the best writers in horror today. Brace yourself for a wickedly thrilling journey through the shadows where the moonlit night and the haunting spirits beckon. Carve pumpkins, don your costumes, and explore macabre tales that will send shivers down your spine. With each turn of the page, you'll be transported back in time to your childhood, to a world where the boundaries between the living and the dead blur, where the supernatural holds sway, and where the night itself keeps secrets waiting to be unraveled. Are you ready to embrace the darkness and experience the thrill of Halloween like never before? There's a lot of stories in here. So first off, this was printed in 2023, so this is brand new. I'm trying to see if there's any other authors that weren't on the cover that I am familiar with. 27 short stories. Now, I know I mentioned in my last video how I feel like it's really rare to find like novels that are set around Halloween. So I was really excited to find this because this is a bunch of stories all around Halloween. I remember like 2 or 3 Halloweens ago, I read Dead Leaves by Keelan Patrick Burke. While I wasn't over the moon with that book, I really did like the some of the short stories and how Halloween centric all of them were. Okay, next up, Forgotten Ghosts by Cass K. Now, this is the sequel to Legacy Witches that I spoke about in my spooky season reads video that I posted last. So this is the sequel. I'm going to read the back of the book. Vianna has finally stopped running from her legacy, but she refuses to be a part of Salem's daily drama. Instead, she's content to work in her garden, bound with the family familiar, and make candles. When an old friend reaches out about ghostly encounters in the tunnels that run below his hoodoo shop, Vianna and roommate bestie Dee agree to poke around. But they're not the only ones on the case. Bossy Detective Elliot insists they combine their efforts, despite centuries of mistrust between law enforcement and the craft. Down in the tunnels, their unlikely trio entangles with a team of ghost hunters, which can't be a coincidence. In order to find out what the ghosts want, she'll have to learn to trust her new alliances and the magic within her. Alright, so we get ghost hunters, we get hoodoo, we get more Salem witches. As I said in my last video, I really loved the first book because it was so pivotal to Salem. This one seems to be also set in Salem, but the Salem Underground, which I don't think is a thing. Could be wrong on that. Don't know. But this also just recently came out, so I'm very, very excited to read this. Alright, next up. This is another Twisted Retreat book. And this is Her Buried Lives. Now, with all Twisted Retreat books, they are always custom and beautiful, and we have this super creepy moment right here. Let's read the inside flap. Oh, and this is by Caitlin L. Duncan. Can the sins of the past dictate your future? For as long as she can remember, Jenny Miller has experienced intense, intrusive visions, plagued by graphic mental images of death and harm. Jenny is constantly on edge, always fighting to stay on this plane of reality, until she gets one chance to learn if anyone else in her family suffered the same way. When Jenny and her mother travel to a rural town to sell their legacy home, evidence of the past surrounds them and forces concealed secrets to the surface. But the more Jenny digs, the more she entrenches herself in a sordid past. Soon after finding a hidden journal filled with disturbing messages, a local goes missing, and the suspicions of the town sheriff turn towards Jenny and her mother. To prove their innocence, Jenny needs to come face to face with a killer who is more like her than she ever wanted. With the clock ticking, can Jenny withstand her visions long enough to uncover the truth and save herself? There we go. Oh, and just have this little thing where it says content guidance. I actually really appreciate this. This novel explores aspects of psychology and mental health and contains depictions of kidnapping, homicide, and female fertility. Please read with care. Love that. So I don't actually know if I will get to this in October. This is definitely on my high list in my TBR. But I love small town horror. That always kind of gives me spooky season vibes, so I definitely have this on that list for that reason. Okay, 2 more. So next I have Bone Harvest by James Brogdon. I've actually owned this book for a while, but have never really committed to it because I always want to read it during spooky season, but it's also like 500 pages, and just like with the way my life is right now, it's been really tricky to read longer paged books, but I'm hoping to get to it. And I've never read anything by James Brogdon, but I've heard mixed things about him. But I also like that it says, "You shall reap what you sow" on the cover. I love the idea of harvest. I love this whole orange moment that we have, but let's read what it's about. Struggling with the effects of early onset dementia, Denny Keeling now leads a quiet life. Her husband is dead, her children are grown, and her best friend Sarah was convicted of murdering her abusive husband. After Sarah's tragic death in prison, Denny has found solace in her allotment, and all she wants is to be left to tend it in peace. Life remains quiet for 12 years, until 3 strangers take on a nearby plot, and Denny starts to notice unnatural things. Shadowy figures prowl at night. Plants flower well before their time, and then Sarah appears, bringing dire warnings and vanishing after daubing symbols on the walls in Denny's own blood. Denny soon realizes that she is face to face with an ancient evil, but with her dementia steadily growing worse, who is going to believe her? So I'm definitely interested in this. This kind of gives me like folk horror Adam Neville vibes. And whenever I do my spooky season videos, I always wonder if I should put Adam Neville on it just because folk horror also kind of makes me think of spooky season, but I'm never entirely sure. But this one with like the cover and the word harvest in it, I was like, all right, let's see where this goes. So excited for that one. And then following in the same trend, we have Thomas Tryon's Harvest Home. This is a book that I have seen talked about for years, and I've also owned it for quite a while, but still have yet to commit to reading it. It's about 400 pages. But I have heard just really, really good things about it. I've heard it's very, like, it's a slow burn, but also kind of culty, which are things I really like. So, let's see. After watching his asthmatic daughter suffer in the foul city air, Theodore Constantine decides to get back to the land. When he and his wife search New England for the perfect 19th century home, they find no township more charming, no countryside more idyllic than the farming village of Cornwall Coombe. Here, they begin a new life, simple, pure, close to nature, and ultimately more terrifying than Manhattan's darkest alley. When the Constantines win the friendship of the town matriarch, the mysterious widow Fortune, they are invited to join the ancient festival of Harvest Home, a ceremony whose quaintness disguises dark intentions. In this bucolic hamlet, where bootleggers work by moonlight and all the villagers seem to share the same last name, the past is more present than outsiders can fathom, and something far more sinister than the annual Harvest Fest is about to rise out of the earth. I don't know why this gives me Over the Garden Wall vibes. It does, you know, like with I think it's the first episode where they go to the, like, land of the pumpkin people. That's the vibe I'm getting with this. But I've heard really good things about this, so very excited to finally get around to reading it. And you know what? It's fall all through November as well, so if I don't get through all of these for spooky season, I will probably definitely read a lot of these to, like, continue the fall vibes in November. So hopefully I can get through a decent amount this month, but I know that might be tricky. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I try to post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays, and if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you all in the next one. Mwah!